Well, hello. Today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm going to tell you a ghost story. Now, before you run off, ghost story, oh brother, hear me out. This is about something that happened to me when I was a kid, between the ages of 9 and 12 years old. And I've written a book about it. And if you happen to want to buy the book and read the whole thing, it's on Amazon and all the other online outlets. And anyway, I'll put a little note below here where you can buy it if you feel like it. And if you don't want to buy it and you just want to listen to it, the audiobook is loaded on my channel too. It's down there a little ways. Now the name of the book is Under Attack: Surviving in a Haunted House. Okay, there I've done my pitch. So if you want to buy the book or just want to listen to it for free, you can go down to my down here and find it. I'll leave a note for that one too to find it. Okay, now that's out of the way. This house was located in Salt Lake City on the west side of town, and there was nothing unusual about it. It was just a regular house in a regular neighborhood. It had no history of being haunted or anything like that. It wasn't even that old. It was, at the time we lived there, it was about, maybe, I don't know, 40 years old or something like that. But there was nothing unusual about it, except the previous residents, who were renters. There was something strange about them that maybe I can talk about that some other time. But looking back, I believe they explain why the place was the way it was. Now, how we got in there, through circumstances. My mother was a widow, and through some financial circumstances that came up, we had to move in there because, well, it was financial circumstances. And there was me, my mother, of course, and I was, like I said, 9 through 12 years old is when we lived there. I had an older brother when we moved in. He was 16, an older sister. When we moved in there, she was about 12, I believe. And I had a younger sister who was about 5 or 6 years old when we moved in there. So there we are, one happy family in the house. Now, I'm going to tell you this is one thing that happened there. This is one story of many things that happened to us in that house. And it was truly a dangerous place to be. Well, okay. The background of this, the house was laid out. I got to give you this layout so that, if you, as I tell you about the story here, you have to kind of follow me through what was going on. It was a 2-story house, and the upper floor is where our bedroom was. I slept in the bedroom. I shared a bedroom with my older brother Pete, who was 16 at the time. And the way it was set up, the upper floor had a stairway that came up to the upper floor, and then the hallway went laterally both ways, kind of like a T. And at one end was one room, that was our bedroom, and the other end was the other bedroom, which faced the street, and that was my two sisters' bedroom. Okay? Now, so what happened was, the house had a feel to it, and I don't know how to describe this. This is kind of hard it's kind of a mental thing, but when we moved in, it didn't take us long, at least it didn't take me too long, to find, to figure something's wrong here. Something's just not right. Even though I was only 9 years old, you could tell there's just something not right here. You felt like, I guess the best way I can say it, somebody's watching you all the time. There's something around you. There's something with you. Something that's just in the walls, or it's just very, very difficult to explain it, but it's like you're never alone in the house. And anyway, so to get to the story, one night, I guess, I don't know, it was 6 months or so after we'd been there, maybe even longer. But I started hearing a noise of someone coming up the stairs to the upstairs, where we were sleeping. And what it sounded like was heavy boots on the stairs. They're coming up one step at a time. I mean, it was like, thump, thump, and then a second later, thump, thump, like they were coming up one step at a time in heavy boots on the stairs. Now, the one other odd thing is that I would hear this sound every night. Well, not every night. I'd hear it a lot, and I would go to sleep hearing that. And of course, as you might suspect, it was terrifying. But it's funny how you get used to something. And anyway, and the other odd thing was, I don't know, this is neither here nor there, but it's just an interesting fact. I would hear this, the steps. If you counted how many steps you heard, and I never counted them, but it was 1, 2, 3, however many steps there were coming up the stairs. There were way too many steps for how many steps there were. And I always thought that was odd, because it was like someone was coming up the stairs, but they never got to the top for some reason, but they were constantly climbing. It's kind of odd, but that's kind of how it was. And by the way, as I'd lay there terrified in my bed, hearing this, it wasn't like, gee, do I hear a sound? Is that what is that? No, it was kind of loud. And on the stairs, I'd heard all of us going up and down those stairs. I knew what the stairs sounded like, somebody walking on the stairs. It was definitely, that's what it was. Anyway, one night after I'd been hearing this for, I don't know, quite a while, I was laying there, kind of terrified as usual. And like I said, I usually went to sleep hearing this noise. But this night, the noise stopped, and I never heard it stop before, and so right then it's something different, and so that kind of got my attention, and I was a little more frightened than I already was. But then I'm waiting for, well, what next? Something's next. Now, the way my bed was, I was sleeping at the opposite end of the room, so that if I sat up in my bed, I could see the door, the entrance door to our room. And my brother Pete was off to one side, closer to that door, and that's where he slept. Anyway, so I'm wondering about this noise, and I could hear something else that I was very familiar with. I heard the door start to open, and I heard it because it wasn't the squeaking of the hinges or anything like that. The door was cut. It was really close to the carpet out there, and the carpet was a very short shag kind of a thing. And if you opened it, it made like a rushing noise going across the bottom of the door where the door was rubbing on the carpet. Kind of shh. It was an unmistakable sound because I'd heard it so many times. I knew what it was. But the door was opening, and I don't know what to tell you. It was just scary. That's about the best thing I can say. It was scary. So I'm sitting in my bed there, laying in my bed, and I could just see that direction, but it was too dark to see anything in the room right then. And I know for sure that night, if I looked at my hands and tried to see my fingers, I couldn't. It was that dark. Couldn't see a darn thing. But, I knew where the door was, so I was looking that direction, without sitting up or anything. And so the door stopped moving, and I knew it had stopped because the noise stopped. And so I was wondering, what in the world, what's going to happen next? And then I saw this form, this shape, come in through the doorway. Now, like I said before, I could not see anything. I couldn't see the doorway. I couldn't see anything over there. But when this thing came in the door, I could see it, and I could see it quite plainly. It was darker than the dark. That's about all I can say. It stood out from the darkness, very plain. And what did it look like? It looked like, I guess, a stereotypical, grim reaper, without his reaper, without his scythe, of course. But it looked like kind of like that, with it was a form of obviously a silhouette or a form of a person. And it was tall, meaning, I don't know, about 6 feet or so. And it just started very slowly walking toward me. Now, I didn't hear any sound, but you could tell that it was walking. And just then, right up behind it, came something that was like a white cloudy thing. It didn't emanate any light, but you could see that it was white colored, and it was rolling around and like a cloud sort of a thing that was all excited. And I don't know how to tell you this, but I sensed somehow that this thing was trying to warn me to get out of there. I was getting this mental, message, or it's just strange but this is danger coming. Get out of here. Get out of here. That's kind of the sense I was getting. And after a while, this was behind this dark shape, and after a while it kind of dissipated, and the dark shape kept coming forward. And so I didn't, I was just so terrified. And, for people who wonder, well, why didn't you, just scream or holler or do something? It's when you're terrified like that, you don't think about things like that. You just freeze. At least I did. I just froze. And here's, eyes wide open, seeing this thing coming. And so what happened, it just kept coming, and then I thought for a minute, I closed my eyes to pretended it wasn't there. I'm just a kid, and I'm sitting there thinking, well, maybe, I guess the thoughts that was going through my head was, well, I guess I'll just close my eyes here, and then it might go away, and it might not be there. And maybe it's my imagination, maybe, it's all that kind of thoughts like that. So I closed my eyes and just pretended to be sleeping and hope it would go away. And after, I don't know, a moment or two, maybe 30, 40 seconds, certainly enough time that something should have happened, I opened my eyes and looked to see what was going on, hoping it was gone. But it was right next to me, standing by my bed, kind of towering over me. It wasn't looking down or anything, but it was towering over me. And, if I turned my head, there it was, That's how close it was, just standing there. And, I didn't close my eyes now. Anyway, I was terrified. But so then the next thing I saw it do was it reached its hands out like this, and then and I couldn't see its fingers, but I could tell they were hands. And then it pulled them apart slightly, I don't know, 6 or 8 inches, and an amber light was forming between the hands. And then it looked like, it started to bend over forward, kind of like this. And to me, it looked like it was bending down to use whatever light was between its hands to have a good look at me. Now that was terror that sparked me into doing something. As it was bending down, I started yelling at my brother, "Hey, turn on the light, turn on the light." And I was very frantic about it. I was screaming, and he's over there, So, "What's the matter with you?" And I said, "Turn on the light, turn on." And he goes, "All right." So he jumps out of bed, and of course he walks over to the doorway where the light switch was, flipped on the lights, and of course immediately, whatever this was, it was gone. And he's over there pretty peeved at me, annoyed that I was. "What is the matter with you, you stupid little kid? What's the problem?" And I just said, "Nothing, nothing." And he said, "Oh, dumb little kid, wake me up in the middle of the night." He was very annoyed. So he turns off the light and he goes back to bed. And I didn't. Nothing else happened during that night, but that was one thing that happened in that house. And I wasn't the only one to ever see that guy, if you want to call him a guy. And I'll have to tell you another story about that sometime. But anyway, that's kind of how that house was. And it wasn't just seeing things or doing things. These things would interact with you. You'd get pushed, shoved, touched, and you'd hear noises, somebody walking around downstairs, and you're around the corner watching TV. So you go around the other side and look, there's nobody there. Just things like that happened all the time, and much worse things. And it worked on you mentally too, and I'll maybe explain that a little bit later if anyone feels like it. Well, anyway, that's my ghost story. Now, I would like you to comment and tell me what you think about it. Did you like this ghost story, or was it interesting, or should I do more of them? Because there's a lot of stuff that happened in that house. Or if you thought this is stupid, my skin is so thick that you couldn't possibly insult me. If you want to tell me this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard, come on, please do. Because what I'm really interested in is it worthwhile telling more of these stories? And or if anyway, just let me know what you thought. And like I said, don't be afraid to insult me, because I'm well beyond being insulted. So let me know what you think, and that's the end of my story. Thanks.